Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles post-game show after the Eagles' 25-11 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. DeAndre Swift, once again, with a big night, 16 for 130, the second straight game in which he topped 100 yards. I believe that's the first time for an Eagles running back in quite some time. On defense, suffocation, again, the best performance of the season for that side of the ball. Jalen Carter makes a huge impact in his return home, near home at least. And Bo Wulf here next to Jamie Lynch. We're expecting Zach Berman from Tampa in a little bit. And Jamie, we came here to do two things tonight. Push some tush and talk about this game, and I think we're almost all out of tush.
Yeah, well, tushes were certainly pushed. Once again, a talking point of the NFL, it seemed like, tonight. Don't show Mike Florio or Peter King any of these clips from tonight's game. They might get triggered. But yes, the Eagles are one of the three remaining undefeated teams in the NFL. And, you know, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck there hit on it at the end of the game. It's amazing that they're not even close to playing their best football yet. Wild. And they're putting up, you know, monster amount of yards. And the defense looks spectacular tonight. And we still, I'd be lying to you if I wasn't like, oh man, Jalen missed some throws tonight, diarrhea or not. You know, like he left some plays on the field, and he would tell you that. And they're not even close to playing their best football, and they're 3-0.
And as you said, they outgained the Bucs in this game 472 to 174. Another game in which they absolutely dominate the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
We said that was the mismatch coming into this game. Now the Bucs, Vita Vea didn't seem like he was playing a full game there, but nonetheless, Eagles absolutely dominating up front on offense, and on defense, it was even more pronounced. They were just dominating the Bucs' offensive line throughout this game. If you just go possession by possession for the Bucs, you know, they scored that touchdown sort of after the game was already out of reach. It was 23-3 at that point. The Bucs' first, let's see, six possessions goes 16 yards punt, 21 yards punt, -3 yards punt. They get a field goal, go 59 yards. Then they get an interception, 2 plays into a drive. Then Jalen Carter forces the fumble, and then they punt again. And then there's the safety. So it's like they scored that touchdown at the end, and they never got the ball back. The interception that Jalen Hurts throws, that's a beautiful play by, I think it was D. Delaney, inside the 1 yard line. 1 yard line, you're like, it's almost like it was like a positive EPA play for Jalen Hurts because you're like, they're a half a foot outside the end zone. The Eagles are going to get a safety here, and Nicholas Morrow makes a great play jumping into the end zone.
Yeah, Morrow actually had a really nice night. I know Eagles linebackers always are going to be a point of discussion. Maybe it's just that their life is that easy with the dominance at defensive tackle. I don't know, but either way, you know, Mike Evans kind of gifted you a drop on that first possession. And
yeah, there were a couple little gifts on offense. He had that drop, the Sidney Brown breakup in the end zone.
Yeah, that was a really nice play by him.
It was a nice play, but it was like a poorly thrown ball by Baker Mayfield. Like it should have been a touchdown for them.
Well,
he
also like
you couldn't tell if Sidney Brown knew what he was doing or if he was
I think it was pure luck.
Like falling.
It was just like I'm going to get my hand up there and hope for the best.
But I did think that by and large, and there were a lot of moving parts on defense tonight for the Eagles. It was James Bradberry in the slot for a lot of it. It actually seemed like their initial plan for most of the game was going to be Sidney Brown in the slot and Justin Evans and Breed Blankenship at safety with Bradberry and Slay on the outside, or they were going to flip back and forth, and then Sidney Brown gets injured, and so they had to lean even more into James Bradberry in the slot, Josh Jobe on the outside. It looked like Darius Slay was following Mike Evans when he was on the outside throughout this game. But those guys at linebacker, Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham, who struggled. Well, Cunningham struggled week 1. Morrow struggled week 2. It looked like they both played well in this game, even at safety, where it looks like the Eagles lost Justin Evans in this game.
Yeah.
And then Sidney Brown also left and did not return. The Eagles did fine. Now, the Bucs offense it's not like
trash.
The Chiefs offense, but I thought that this was as a group, the Eagles' best defensive performance of the season for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely felt like that. And, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, it all kind of started with them tonight. It was another night where Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and Hassan Reddick were, collapsing pockets, but not really getting home. And it's just like the middle of that line it was collapsing every time. The Bucs couldn't run the ball to save their life on those two monsters. Even our boy from USC, I'm not even going to...
Marlon Tuipulotu.
There you go.
What a great celebration. He was like... You like when a guy seems legitimately excited and surprised that he made a play. He was so happy.
Yeah, he was.
Starts kissing his forearm. It was nice, yeah.
But that middle of that line, that's... you might not be able to find a better D-tackle group in the NFL. They're that good.
Yeah.
And Jalen Carter is in his third game.
It is wild how good he is.
Insane. That play, I saw Chris Long retweet it and was just like, wow, Jalen Carter is a monster on the fumble. He was in at the point of contact on the play, turns around, spins out, and then comes down with a Thor hammer and punches the ball out.
And it was such a crucial part of the game.
It was
10-3 at that point, and Jalen Hurts had just thrown that interception to Devin White, which was a big play, and the Bucs are near midfield at the end of the first half. There's a chance that they could, even go and tie the game. And on the first play of that drive, Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox. Jalen Carter beats a double team and splits a sack with Fletcher Cox. It was an unbelievable rush. And then on the next play, he makes that play where he spins off of the contact, circles around, and the ferocity with which he punches that ball loose was really impressive. And it's not only is this guy so good so early at a position that usually takes a long time, but for him to sort of turn it up in a big point in the game, not only is he really, really good, but it seems like he's got that it's a small sample size. He's got that sort of dog in him, right?
Coach Dion, I think or Coach Prime, I should say, would have him with a D, not an L. He's got that dog in him. He's ridiculously good for 3 games into the NFL. Ridiculously good. The baby rhino is going to be a storyline of the NFL. I'll say it right now. If you haven't bet him to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, go scramble.
You might not get any good. Your odds are going to be so short.
You might be laying, minus 150 to get it at this point on DraftKings, but it looks like it's going to be a sure thing. The Eagles got a blessing under some kind of ridiculous circumstances that he fell to him at 9, but they got an absolute gem of a player.
It's one overall. We're going to have a long time to talk about the Jalen Carter career and how we got here and everything that led to it, but there is sort of that Aaron Rodgers thing a little bit where it's you wonder if to what degree him falling to 9 sort of helped put this little chip on his shoulder. And if he was the first or second or third pick, would it not have had quite the same urgency from his vantage point as a rookie? And obviously he landed in a place where he's got these guys who he knows. It's a team that doesn't need him to necessarily be a beast right away, even though he is. All of those things sort of come together. The biggest thing, though, is that he is just unbelievably talented.
I guess you could make the case that DeAndre Swift, but outside of that, I don't know if there's been a better Eagle this season.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah. I'm not breaking down I'm not baldy on the offensive line tape.
Lane Johnson is usually the answer to that question, and he's been awesome, but
his false starts are getting picked up on a little bit.
Not quite as dominant as last year, for instance. AJ Brown has been fine.
Great game tonight.
Jalen Hurts has taken a little step back, and we're obviously going to get to that. I think it could.
You could make the case.
Jalen Carter has been the best player on the team.
That's insane.
Games. That's insane.
Rookie defensive tackles don't do that. That's not a thing. Really.
He's already the second best rookie defensive tackle of the past 10 years. It's been 3 games.
Yeah. What, Aaron Donald? What are you going with?
Yeah. That's the trajectory that he's on. That's insane.
That's the level of talent this kid has. And when you put Jordan Davis next to him, when they were coming out of school, they kept saying these two had a nonverbal understanding of one another. They wouldn't need to talk. They just played off each other so instinctually well. And you're kind of seeing it. Jordan Davis is impossible to move. And then you got the moves of Carter on the other side with the strength. And it's just these two might be the pillars of the defense here for the next 10, 12 years if they are able to play that long. I mean, they have two absolute monsters in the middle of that line, and it's pretty fucking awesome. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
And it's also like he's already being treated this way. Like he's already commanding
He's getting
double teams all the time. He gets that sack. He's beating a double team. It is wild, and it is like not something that you could necessarily have counted on, but it is. I like that case that he could be the best player on the team through 3 games. I think it's possible.
It's pretty wild. I mean, the other guy, and I see a lot of St. Joe's prep chatter, and I don't know if that's because I'm a LaSalle guy or what, but DeAndre Swift was the other best player on the field tonight, and holy hell, I mean, how much does he enjoy playing in Philadelphia behind this offensive line?
16 carries for 130 yards for DeAndre Swift. He also had 4 catches for 28 yards. He's seeing some big holes.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it. But, so is Kenny Gainwell. And Kenny Gainwell had 14 carries for 43 yards. And it's not quite the same, but like the quickness with when Swift hits the hole.
It surprised me.
It's really impressive. And he has sort of the make you miss ability. And I don't mean to like throw shade at a guy, but it looks different than it did with Miles Sanders last year. Like
it does.
He is a little bit more decisive. He's a little bit more dynamic, and I think that it has sort of made up in a degree to the way that Jalen Hurts is not playing quite to his level.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a stat, that in 40 games in Detroit, he had 4 100-yard games in 40 games. Now in 3 games, he has 2 100-yard games, and as you said,
imagine like watching DeAndre Swift tonight
as a Lions fan,
and thinking to yourself, okay, we got rid of that guy.
We took Jahmyr Gibbs,
the 12th overall pick, and paid David Montgomery to replace this guy. Like,
yeah, that's probably a tough pill to swallow there, but those are the extreme positives from it tonight. And the other one on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Reed Blankenship played.
I'm so glad I invented him. Yeah.
Ed Reed Blankenship really lived up to the hype, man. That interception,
really nice.
He read from the start, timed it perfectly. He had a big play in the backfield. He looks like entering the season. I said, all right, this kid looked promising, but I don't want to get carried away. And then they kind of like said he wasn't even really a position battle in camp. They kind of like were like he
took
starter.
every snap, every first team snap,
and I went okay, I guess. And then you missed his absence in week 2, and in weeks 1 and 3, Reed Blankenship's looked the part again. So there's some really good things happening on the defensive side of the ball. Some offensive stuff emerged tonight. There was some bad there, but seeing AJ Brown get involved in a big way was pleasant to see as well.
Yeah, 9 catches for 131 for AJ Brown. I feel like that was as quiet like 131 as you're ever going to get.
He wanted a touchdown bad.
Yeah, he really did.
Real bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that came either on that first drive or after the game was a little bit out of hand. And I think you can probably tell that the Eagles are cognizant of getting him the ball and trying to keep him involved. Meanwhile, Devontae Smith had just 4 for 28, and Dallas Goedert had 5 for 41. Goddard looked better tonight and more involved than he has been those first 2 games. But the A.J. Brown thing, I think it's nice that they fed him. Maybe that quiets things down for a couple weeks, right? But I don't necessarily think that that's like the end of that.
No, I wouldn't think so until he starts putting up, multi-touchdown games and feeling himself again. I think he's going to want the ball on.
Who do you think is like the A.J. Brown of the PHLY crew?
Ooh.
Who's like demanding more ball?
That's a tough question. I haven't been around the Flyers guys yet, but Bill Matz might be the guy that wants more of a workload.
I like to imagine a scenario in which, because Charlie O'Connor, I know is very sort of reserved.
Yes.
I like to imagine a situation in which he just comes in and starts demanding
when he's furious
to be on
the
every
keyboard.
show. Yeah, this is bull. Like,
I should be hosting the
I'm
Eagles
the best
show
guy
too.
Here. Yeah. When he's already writing Phillies, it feels like
true.
he is maybe
He's
spreading his
talented,
wings a little bit. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts in this game finishes with 2 interceptions, 23 of 37, completed about 62% of his passes, 277 yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, sacked once. The 2 interceptions, he also ran for 28 yards on 10 carries. A lot of those were quarterback sneaks, so nothing too big of a deal there. But he was negative EPA per dropback again, and I think I'm sort of like checking myself because I was looking back at the game by game EPA per dropbacks from last season, and more often than not, he was good. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year, but he had some down games. If you count the playoffs, he played 18 games last year. 12 of them were positive EPA per dropback. 6 of them were negative, right? So even in the regular season, it was 10-5. So 2/3 of the time, he's playing a very good game, just as a dropback passer, not taking into account any other running. This year, he's been below 0 in all 3 games, right? So, are we forgetting that there were some bad games last year, or are we saying like it's true that through the first 3 games he has not looked so good? Now, I think there is a bit of a balance here, and I feel a little bit better tonight than I did last week, even though he probably played maybe a worse game tonight, because I just think about the offense as a whole and the way that they're able to run the ball right now. I think there is like the reason that he is not, part of the reason at least, that he is not looking so great as a passer is because I think that defenses are using their resources to sort of stop the passing game, right? It was all the drop 8s the first 2 games, and in this game, Todd Bowles, I think, a bit against type, was playing a little bit more coverage. And if teams are going to do that, right now, the Eagles can just sort of run the ball down their throats, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that last week. We saw that a little bit in the Patriots game, not quite so much. And I think that this is like the long game where, like against the Chiefs or against the Bengals last year, against these really, really good quarterbacks, if defenses are going to do that, are the opposing offenses like good enough running the ball and patient enough running the ball to just beat teams up that way? And where I don't necessarily think that was the case for like the Chiefs, I think that is the case for the Eagles. And so I think that they are in a situation right now because they have this sort of easy part of the early schedule, where they can be a little bit patient, and if teams are going to continue just trying to stop the big play in the passing game for the Eagles can just run the ball, and it's going to be fine. And I am not like a run the ball kind of guy. But if all of a sudden teams are like, okay, like we got to stop DeAndre Swift from running the ball 8 yards a carry, we got to put some more guys in the box, then I think you have to trust that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to turn it on then and get the passing game going, and then it's sort of the push and pull of how our team's going to defend us. So I was worried about the way he played tonight. It seemed different than last week, where like he was seeing things okay, and or he wasn't seeing things okay, but when he did throw the ball, he was accurate. Tonight, it seemed like he was seeing things okay. He was just missing throws. Like, so I'm a little bit less worried than I would have expected to be.
I actually thought tonight was a little bit better than last week, just because tonight with Goddard early on, there was like 2 plays where they seemed to be on different pages.
Right.
The reason I was encouraged tonight by his play was there was 2 or 3 throws where he stayed in the pocket and delivered balls on the money, like the Zacchaeus, another St. Joe's Prep guide, all you commenters, touchdown. You can't get much better than that in the NFL. It was a beautifully placed ball right over somebody's outreached arms as he was taking a big shot. So that was really encouraging. The A.J. Brown almost touchdown. At first, I was like, why did he throw that so high? And then on replay, you saw the linebacker jumping up, and he placed it just over his fingers. That's a ball that A.J. should make a touchdown on, probably 8 out of 10 times. So it seemed to me like maybe they should play a little bit in the preseason. It seemed like some of that timing chemistry was off tonight on a couple plays. But I saw one of the commenters there say they thought he stayed in the pocket a little bit more tonight. I agree. I think he... at times last year, we forget he was quick to bail on the pocket early in the season a lot, and I was worried that was going to become an Achilles heel of his. Tonight, he showed, the brass ones to hang in there.
I think we saw it a couple times tonight.
Yeah, probably 5 times, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
But, I was more encouraged than I wasn't. He was definitely off. The one interception at the pylon, I give all the credit to the defender on that one. You would have liked a little more zip on that pass.
Yeah.
But that's a hell of a play.
I don't have an issue with that throw.
The interception to David, that looked like one of those miscommunication timing.
And that was Swift he was throwing to.
Yeah, so something was off there because that was too bad of an interception for him. That was bad. And
Right.
and David looked like he couldn't move on that.
I think he came in. It was Devin White. I think he came in
Or
with
White,
a
yeah.
groin injury, and so
Okay.
he was like he wasn't going to go all out.
Yeah.
But he could have seemed like he could have lowered his shoulder and tried to run over Jalen Hurts. Yeah,
I mean, how do you not take a shot at
Yeah,
the quarterback if you're a
yeah.
linebacker in the league? So overall, I'd give him like a B- tonight.
him specifically, I'm looking at like a C. I think
You're a
But-
C?
Yeah,
We'll
but-
see what Zach all hopped up on Banana Foster
That's right.
gives them. But,
Well, and Hurts is going to win as a win. When I thought we were since when does a win not matter? That's the
so
only
maybe
thing
that
matters,
averages out
but-
to a C+ for the game.
Yeah,
He certainly
this-
wasn't his best, but there was a couple things I was encouraged by.
Yeah, I do think that like if you're looking for like real trouble signs of a guy like keeping his eyes down against the rush, I haven't seen that. I think he was not great in a different way tonight than he was last week, but I feel like the overall health of the team I feel better about than I did last week because seeing the defense turn it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Seeing like the continuation of this run game dominance, I think is all very good and bodes well because it means and in the vein of a win is a win, being able to stack these wins, as you said before, one of only 3-0 teams in the league. Now you have some sort of time to live with the evolution of Jalen Hurts' season here.
Yeah, and if they truly haven't played their best games yet, I mean, that means their best is potentially really, really good. And they do have a murderer's row stretch in the middle of the season there where you're going to get tested, and it's not going to be a Baker Mayfield and a Sam Howell. And who did they play last week? I'm brain farting. I mean, the quarterbacks haven't been stellar.
Oh, Kirk Cousins. Yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
Melvin, yeah.
He's mids.
Yeah.
So, you're going to face those big-time quarterbacks later in the season. But it's always nice to give yourself a little buffer space here with the layups. Because if they lost any of these 3 games, the Eagles fans would not be taking it well.
Yeah, shout out to Deep Fab Dan McQuaid, who likes to say like the perfect Eagles win is a win in which they don't play so well, but they win the game anyway. So everybody has a lot to complain about.
Yeah.
In that vein, it has been the perfect start to the season.
Sure.
Like 3 wins, and every one of them has been like, what the hell is wrong?
Yeah. Why aren't they playing better? It's like, well, they're 3-0.
Right.
Like, how many times in my life have the Eagles started 3-0? Maybe a handful. It's probably not that many. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to hear Jalen Hurts' cliches after the game. He's probably going to have some good Sabanisms and maybe some Hurtsisms, and he's probably going to be a cliche machine tonight. But it did come out at halftime was the first time I heard
Yeah. How
that
about
Adam
that?
Schefter was reporting he had flu-like symptoms entering the game. Surprised we didn't catch any of that.
You always want a little bit more info on that.
Yeah. I want the real nitty-gritty questions asked. Was, which end was it coming out of?
Right.
What was this? Why can't we get a temperature? What's his temperature reading?
Yeah,
Was he
if
above
we
100?
if we are giving that information to reporters as like sort of an excuse,
Yeah.
let's
Was it
let's get
101?
let's get the details.
Did he take Tylenol? Did his fever break? Did he have the chills? Did he ask the maid to turn down his bed last night because he sweat through his sheets? Let's get some details about this sickness here,
I agree with that.
And the flu is just a little too vague. It could mean anything.
Yeah.
Let's get some
I wonder if
nitty-gritty details
I'll talk
here.
about it after the game. Now, Jamie, we're going to talk DraftKings, but you had on both your best bets from the pregame show.
A little 2-0 night for
Nicely
me.
done.
The DeAndre Swift now, in hindsight, looked like
DeAndre Swift over and look easy money.
39.5.
Yeah.
That was free money. And then Baker Mayfield.
Interception.
Because he was looking a little thick. I went interception. And Ed Reed Blankenship made me 2-0. So that takes me to 3-1 on the year.
Big job by you.
Yeah,
I like
not
that.
bad, not
I went
bad.
1-1. I
right.
got my Rashad White under on the rushing, but I did not. For some reason, I decided to put money on Trey Palmer. Not real money, but Trey Palmer had one
Pride
catch.
money.
I needed one more catch from Trey Palmer.
Pride
but
money, yeah.
there
But
you
I
go.
did take the Eagles straight up on DraftKings. So thank you for the deposit, DraftKings. I always appreciate when you pay me swiftly. So, yeah, that was nice. They covered fairly easily. Mike Evans came to life late there. I'm sure Slay's not going to be happy about that one touchdown. But he made a couple stellar catches late. And it was a weird game for him because he had
was
like those
weird. He had,
three
like, three
kinda-
drops, yeah.
And then the last drive you saw, oh, yeah, that's Hall of Famer Mike Evans. There he is.
Right.
And he came to life. And overall, the Bucs offense, I don't really.
Not until the very end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good receivers, but Baker Mayfield's only going to take you as far as Baker Mayfield can.
I think that's right. Well, we are back with another week of football and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw 5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football is more fun when you are in on the action. So download the app and sign up with code PHLY. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with code PHLY. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles in Louisiana. 21 and older. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in ONT. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football. Terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. There we go.
That's good work by you. It's always, it seems shorter when you read it. When I do it in my head, it takes like 6 minutes.
Yes.
But that seemed pretty quick. Good night, Barbara Carroll in the chat room. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit. Bo, there was a comment right above that said, who was it there? Mr. Woody's baby. Bo picked the Eagles pregame.
Yeah, we got a mea culpa for the prediction. That's somebody who did not watch the pregame show.
He flip-flopped.
That's right.
He picked the Eagles in the pregame show.
I said, I had to make their prediction on Friday. I thought maybe the Eagles were going to lose, and then I sort of felt the temperature as things were going along. And
it wasn't
as
the storms
I got here
this
today,
weekend.
I said, Andrew asked me before the show, I said, you know what? I don't think they're going to lose this game anymore. And pregame, I flipped my pick. I picked the Eagles to win. And so, does this mean that I can have it both ways? Absolutely. But the last prediction is the one that's really the official prediction. And so a good job by me, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, you got to pat yourself on the back there. It is a tremendous job by you playing both sides, but ultimately picking the right side. And shout out to Sam and Nick and Josh and Philly52 and Rev You Dad, all you guys hanging out after the game. We really appreciate you. Just, keep smashing that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube channel. A lot of fun getting to do this live and react after a win. And guess what? The next game on the schedule, Bo, I like their odds. I'm just going to say that early.
Yeah,
I like their odds to go 4-0.
I wonder what the early line there is. And give it a look there. Let me give you a chance here,
I'm
Jamie.
going to guess. That's at home?
It is at home.
I'm going to say Eagles minus 7.5.
From what I can see here,
it might be 8.5.
It is
7.5 might be
7.
7. All right. I was.
Although this was as of today, so probably not taking into account.
Okay. So it'll probably be that 7.5 or 8 line, right around that. A lot of people in the comment section were curious, Bo, your thoughts on Hassan Reddick tonight. That's something I actually had on my notes.
It's a little on my radar.
To ask Zach about. If you remember last year, he started out really slow.
Yes.
And Sirianni had the comment of like, guys, I'm telling you, he's close. He's close. He's going to bust out. Somebody in the chat said, he still has the cast on his hand. He's got to be close. Are you seeing, is it fair to fall back on last year and the slow start and then the boom once the floodgates opened up? Or do you have a little bit of concern in that he doesn't look the same as last year?
I have I would say a small bit of concern, like on 1 to 10 turkeys. I'm probably like a 3, because I do think it looks a little bit different. He doesn't look quite as explosive.
Yeah, and
there is the mitigating factor of the hand injury, the thumb injury, right? So I'm not like super concerned about it because I imagine that that's on the come a little bit, and the interior has been so good that it's not like they're missing him.
Yeah,
but I do think that he doesn't look quite the same as he did last year. And I would say I have like about as much faith that he'll get back to that level as I do with Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, him and Sweat, I thought, have been getting close. But quarterbacks, obviously, when you set an NFL record for sacks in a season, part of the offseason work for preparing for the Eagles is get rid of the ball quick. And I thought Baker Mayfield actually did a fairly decent job of making his reads quick and making his decisions tonight. So I think that's hurting him. I'm not overly concerned, but I agree with you that he doesn't quite look as quick or as explosive last year. But then you see some of those get off the line stats, and he's still up there, as a pretty quick player. So hopeful that it'll come, but I don't know what I'm basing that on outside of 3 straight years of double-digit sacks.
Which is, I think, enough to...
fair, yeah. I mean, that's some real equity he gained with Eagles fans.
Right.
So I wouldn't say concerned, but curious why it's taking him a couple games each year here to get going. I don't know why that is exactly.
One thing that I think is worth talking about is the Eagles' performance in the red zone, Jamie. 1 for 5 in this game. They start this game pretty much dominating, and they get 2 trips to the red zone, and they come out with only 3 points. I think this is one where I would probably tend to look at it right now with a glass half full, because this was something where, generally speaking, year to year, like offensive red zone performance is something that's not super sticky, and they were so good last year that you were expecting some regression to the mean this year. Mm-hmm. And so for them to have a game when they go 1 for 5 and still win by 2 touchdowns, that's probably good. Maybe you sort of save your good games. The flip side to that is it does just generally feel like their plan in the red zone schematically is not super buttoned up.
It seems like their plan is to get to the 2-yard line and then tush-push their way in.
Twice, We need more tush in the tush-push,
Yeah, and we'll get the latest when we check in from Zach Berman. I saw somebody in the comments say they thought Landon Dickerson had a knee contusion. Hopefully it's
just
something...
killed a guy on that. Yeah, I mean, that was wild.
And that was the big Swift, 43-yard play or whatever it was. Red zone hasn't been great. I don't know where the blame goes. Part of it might be Brian Johnson. Part of it might be Jalen. Not really sure what that is. We can talk to Zach about that after he gets out of the locker room, because the timeline was not happy with Brian Johnson tonight. But it's never as simple as one person's fault. He's adjusting to his new job, and it's not great in the red zone so far. But I also think Jalen hasn't been his best yet either. To me, until you kind of get a little more offensive confidence, just keep running the ball down teams' throats. I'm not trying to go 1983 Buddy Ryan guy here, but it's kind of an unstoppable play. They're just road grading teams, and to me, you want some passes in the air, but just shove it down their throat.
It's funny because this sort of occurred to me in the second half of this game. We talk about this with Jalen Hurts and how quarterback development is not linear. And it sort of seems like the offense we've seen from the Eagles this season is maybe the offense that I would have expected to see at the beginning of last season, when they were trying to incorporate A.J. Brown into the offense. And they just sort of skipped a step, and they just went from the 2021 offense to one of the best offenses in the league. And it seemed like this season, where Jalen Hurts is a little bit more uneven as a passer, and they can still throw the ball effectively at times, but really need to lean on the ground game, and that being their superpower, it would have made more sense logically if it was 2021 to 2023 and then the 2022 offense. It's totally. Just it's sort of come out of order.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And that was, part of my concern going into this year. I was he had such a meteoric rise,
right,
like you just said, in that 1 year. It's almost natural that he takes a step back or a slight regression. Not to say he was going to go out and suck,
right?
But he was so good last year, and every decision he made and every defensive reading he was making seemed to be on point and almost always the right play. And then this year, you're seeing whether it's lack of great communication between him and his targets, one interception tonight was just a complete miscommunication between the two of them. So stuff like that's popping up, and hopefully that's all very correctable. But it is almost a step back or a regression from last year.
And I the touchdown pass to Olamide Zaccheaus, right? On that drive, there were 2 of those plays, both to Zaccheaus, where it looked like you couldn't tell if Jalen Hurts had the perfect read of what was happening in the pocket and was just getting rid of the ball when he had a second, or if he was sort of oblivious to what was going on around him and he got a little bit lucky. And the first one, is the one where the guy's coming around him. Mailata has to block him, but then he's about to get hit again, and he lofts it to Zaccheaus, who was open. And then the other one is like he's getting hit, and he just gets just enough of it over the defender to get to Zaccheaus for the touchdown. I think that's a question for like that only he probably knows the answer to, but I wonder what Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni would say.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in those film sessions just to kind of know what they're actually saying.
Lucky MFer,
Yeah. What have you thought about the pass protection from the offensive line so far this year?
Yeah, I think it has been good. I think it has not been as maybe not as good as last year. I think they have been better as run blockers, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Mailata is not perfect there. Lane Johnson has been like he's been like a 96 instead of a 99 if you were sort of grading him out, right? I think there has been a little bit of pressure, and there are times when it does seem like Hurts could step up a little bit, and instead he bails. But then there are times when he bails because he should bail, and he's able to scramble for a first down. So I would say the offensive line is very low on the list of concerns, right?
Yeah, definitely low on the list of concerns. But I agree with you. I don't think they're looking as good in pass protection as they did last year. I don't know. I can't imagine the offensive line blocking schemes change that much under Brian Johnson's offense compared to Shane Steichen's. Like
sure.
I would imagine that's the staple that you keep the same.
Stout is running those.
Yeah, like Stoughton University exists for a reason. So I can't imagine that changed a lot. Maybe the offensive line looks better if Jalen's making some quicker decisions this year. Last week he kind of looked unsure of when to pull the trigger, almost like. And there was a couple plays early in the first half tonight where he's scrambling. Now with the ESPN camera angles, you can't really see downfield all the time. So do I think that everybody's covered on every single play?
Right.
No, probably not. But at the same time, I can't see what he's seen. So I don't know. That's why I leave that to the experts like Baldy and other guys that are going to be doing the film reviews this week. I'd be curious to see are these guys locked up downfield? Is this a defensive scheme that's working with the Eagles, or is Jalen missing some guys that are breaking open or open?
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have a chance to go over that this week. And yes, we'll talk to Baldy at some point.
Yeah, definitely. He's great at it.
Have you watched any Commanders at all?
A little bit. I watched some on Sunday.
Couple bloodies in.
Yeah, a couple bloodies and the hot red wines were pouring at my house.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Nice crock pot of chili.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Good fall
the crock
activity.
pot made its debut.
Okay.
And that's when it's really fall, is when the crock pot's out. Hal's not bad. I mean, he's a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, I have not watched every game, but he does look a little bit better than I was expecting.
Yeah, that's all I'm trying
meanwhile, they scored 0 points yesterday. So, that's how I was expecting them to look. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm probably going to bet the Eagles when this line opens because it's probably going to grow over the week. They have some talent defensively, but the Commanders are not really going to be a problem here, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a division game.
I would lean
so
towards saying that. Yeah,
I shouldn't scoff it off. It is an NFC East game, but come on,
Josh Harris Bowl.
Yeah, wouldn't want to be him this week.
Yeah, it would be nice to be Josh Harris, money wise and all that stuff. But then you would have to look at yourself in the mirror, and he's
going to be walking into
a scary sight
on Sunday, and I can't imagine the welcome's going to be too warm.
Do my Josh Harris face. He looks like he's perpetually feeling how Jalen Hurts felt before the game. Is what I would say.
Yeah, that's an accurate description. Almost like somebody beefed over in the corner, and he's like, "Where's that coming from?"
Always.
Yeah.
And then he does the handshake with Joe Buck. That was funny.
Yeah, but they're most likely gonna be 4-0, and we'll see if the Miami Dolphins and the San Francisco 49ers can hold and stay undefeated as well. I don't know who they have offhand, but they certainly look like the three best teams in the NFL so far. San Fran's good. Miami's potentially
that
scary.
Dolphins, I think we all thought that making that Dolphins game a Sunday nighter and making that the Kelly Green game was is that really going to be the one? And now it's starting to look like, that'll be a hell of a game.
That's going to be a hell of a game. And Tyreek Hill is a freak, and Jalen Waddle. I mean, they're one of the teams that's right up there with the Eagles in terms of a wide receiver power room. It's probably the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Eagles and maybe the 49ers if Ayuk can continue what he did last year. They're probably, and look at that, they're 3 or 4 of the better teams in the NFL. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm glad the Eagles shifted their philosophy because for years and years under Andy Reid, it was like, nah, we don't need the top receivers in the game. Nah, we're all right. We believe in our system and our philosophy. And now you look at the best teams in the NFL, and a lot of them typically have great wide receivers.
I think that's right. Yeah, that's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are studs.
Now, this is an interesting development, Jamie, because we hear that Zach is waiting for Jalen Hurts' press conference before he comes
might
up.
be getting the temperature readings, the medicine intake, all that good information.
And this is interesting because it's different than last week. Remember, last week, Zach decided to come up to the press box and skip Jalen Hurts because he was putting his, he was thinking that the show mattered more.
Yeah.
Now he's waiting for Jalen Hurts. I feel like we can do nothing but take that as an insult.
Well, I did get the sense last week with Zach that he was uncomfortable being with us, knowing that he was missing Hurts.
Like to his core.
Yeah, like it was hurting him.
Yeah.
He had kind of had Josh Harris face a little bit.
Yeah.
So I could sense that.
Yes.
So it's good to know that we weren't making that up.
But we are here left to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. I really want to know about Landon Dickerson. I know Suopeta came in and I'm sure looked fine. Like I didn't really notice him screwing up or anything. But Landon Dickerson is he's a really good player. And hopefully that's just something as simple as a contusion. And there's a couple other injuries. They're losing guys in the secondary pretty quickly.
They are losing guys in the secondary, no doubt about it. So they have already obviously lost Avonte Maddox. Justin Evans goes down in this game. Sidney Brown goes down in this game. That leaves you with Blankenship and Edmonds at safety, and it was Bradbury at slot with Job on the outside with Darius Slay. Mario Goodrich was inactive for this game, even though he was the backup nickel last game. I guess with injuries, maybe he'll be back in the picture. I was thinking before the game that if there were no injuries, he'd be the next guy to be released, just because if he's not going to be active for this game, what's the point of having him on the roster?
Yeah.
But we will sort of see how that plays out.
Jared makes a good point. He's probably waiting for Jalen to finish up listening to Freddie Mercury before he comes out and talks to the media, as Jalen does on a weekly basis.
And maybe like pestering the kitchen staff to see if there are any leftover bananas Foster.
One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah.
Well, while we wait for Zach, we can talk about game time, because it's probably a little bit too late to get tickets to the Monday night game. But if you're thinking about, do you want to go next week against the Commanders? Maybe the prices are going to drop. You're thinking, can I play this gamble? I'm going to go tailgate. I'm going to wait and wait and wait. And I think sometimes that pays off for you. And Game Time is the place to check it out, because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Flash deals and last-minute tickets. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views and the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. It is the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You can buy your tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
That's good work right there. It's hard to usually find subjects that are universally agreed upon, especially when watching football games. Usually everybody can agree, like, screw cancer. Like, that's one that's universally just supported.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Tonight, I think there was one in the broadcast, and that was the split screen of Cincinnati and the Rams. What the hell was ESPN shoving that down our throats for?
Everybody knows the other game is on.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the other game, they'll
it's
put on the other
another
game.
channel. Yeah. Just flip over.
Also, like, it's 2023. Everyone's got a second screen, right? If you want to have the other one, just put it on your phone. Like,
and it came during that interception when it got put in the smaller
They didn't
box.
wait for like a review or a slow time. It was very bizarre.
So, I'm glad we could all come together in our hate of ESPN shoving the double box down our throats tonight, because that was just completely unnecessary. That really kind of
You
irked
are
me.
preaching to the choir in the chat. The chat is like,
Yeah, what the hell was that?
amen.
And apparently Joe Burrow is struggling. He's 1 for 15 this year on passes downfield.
Interesting.
Yeah, so maybe it's not just Jalen Hurts struggling.
Are you similarly wired where you cannot hear anyone say the word struggling without imagining Joe Namath?
Struggling. In my head, I have
Struggling.
struggling. You look. I want to kiss you right now.
It's impossible. It's impossible to hear that word and not
No,
just think of
the
Joe
word
Namath.
was forever changed when Joe Namath
Yeah.
did that, and then Joe Namath just went on to shit all over Zach Wilson today, which was pretty great. So he's on a roll.
And I mean, I think he's right about that.
Yeah,
I
he
do
probably
feel
is.
like the Jets, like, enough is enough. It's been 3 games. Like, you cannot allow the rest of the guys on that roster to play 14 more games with him as their quarterback. Like,
no.
you owe it to them to do something. They have to do something else.
And
He's
if you're
so
Carson
bad.
Wentz and you call the Jets and offer your services and get told no, you just have to file your retirement paperwork the next day, don't you? Like, it's over.
Yeah.
It's done. If the Jets are saying no with that product on the field,
He's so bad.
it's time to hang him up, Carson. I'm sorry I have to break the news to you, but your career is over. You can retire now and go kill some animals and have fun with your brothers, and that's your NFL career is over. The Jets said no.
One small game management complaint I have.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is this well, I don't know if this falls under game management, but the fake tush push play?
Oh, that too. I did. Yeah. I mean, my reaction there was, why are we wasting that now?
Yeah, up 19 at the time?
Yeah, it felt like a weird time to do it. Unless
Real
the
weird.
order was like, hey, Jalen, go trip on purpose, so teams have to prepare for this and they don't get to see what the actual play was. That was weird.
Okay, so that I guessed wrong, but raised another point.
No, and we talked about it when we were watching.
So what was
my
the
other
game
one was
management?
end of the first half after the Jalen Carter forced fumble. Right, the Eagles have a chance to go get some points. After the review of the A.J. Brown play out of bounds, where I don't understand why they overturned that.
I still don't understand. There was no clear evidence at all.
15 seconds left, 1 timeout, 3rd and 2 from like the 25 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they call that run to Jalen Hurts, which to me makes no sense because even if he gets it, which he did, it's a long developing play that took, I think, 6 seconds off the play clock. So now you burn your last timeout, and so you only can throw one ball to the end zone, and then Jalen Hurts throws that ball not to the end zone, which was a bad decision that could have been picked, right? Whereas, why don't you should be throwing the ball there, and then if you get closer in a little bit better position, you have a better chance of scoring a touchdown, or you miss and you get a field goal, or you can get, if it's less room, there's just more time left. It's a quicker play, so you're going to have more time on the clock. It didn't make any sense to me.
No, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And you wonder, like, is that something that Brian Johnson learns on the fly? You would think it's something intuitive in him as a football player and a former quarterback to kind of already know ahead of time. Like, your
And it
play
could
is
also be a situation where Hurts checks to that play or something.
Sure,
But
yeah, we don't know the play call.
let's be thinking these things through a little bit.
But, I mean, it's favorable for the Eagles here that they do have the easier part of their schedule early, as it does seem like it is kind of preseason for some of the offense and maybe for Brian Johnson some too. Sean Desai stock is soaring. I would say Brian Johnson's stock is on the downturn a little bit, and fair or not, that's just how people are reacting to it so far because of the red
I think
zone
that's the
trips
reaction,
tonight.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to say, stock down on Brian Johnson. I think I sort of want to watch what it looked like, to the point you made earlier about was Jalen missing some guys.
Yeah.
I give him credit for leaning on the run game when it was.
Yeah, last week I thought Brian Johnson got a lot of credit for that game.
But I am with you on Desai, and as you said, we're talking about Baker Mayfield in 2023. It's not like this was the most difficult test, but for a unit that you would have expected to have to take some time to coalesce to a new scheme, and that has had to deal with so many injuries. I mean, maybe the biggest, most important part is that, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox look really good.
Yeah.
And, Sean Desai doesn't get credit for that. But I think dealing with all the pieces he's had to deal with, I give them credit for how good they've looked.
Yeah, and Cunningham, the linebacker, has looked, fairly solid, I think, in 2 of the 3 games. So, that was the big concern after week 1 was, are we back to linebacker woes? as an Eagles fan. And, no, I'm not saying that Cunningham's coming in like T.J. Edwards or Kaiser White, who are off to good starts this year. I think T.J.'s second in the NFL in tackles already. But Cunningham has looked serviceable now in these last 2 games. So, maybe you give Desai some credit there for them not looking like
T.J. Edwards is second in the league in tackles.
Yeah, behind LaSalle High School Zaire Franklin.
Nice.
On Indy. If you remember, he had a monster game versus the Eagles last year.
And then Jason Kelsey ran him over.
Yes, and then he got trucked late.
Yeah.
So, T.J. Edwards, I believe, is second in the NFL.
I mean, I guess the Bears defense is on the field a lot. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That can be a misleading stat.
Sure.
It maybe means that people are preying on you. And you
Right. Right, exactly. Yeah, you don't want like corners with a lot of tackles.
No, it's always linebackers typically. But yeah, T.J. Edwards, look, that was a pretty good linebacking core they had last year. And, these guys Cunningham looks okay. And Morrow, I thought, had a solid game too tonight.
I agree. Christian Ellis got a little bit of burn.
Yeah,
it was mostly as a blitzer. We are a slow developing community, but I still believe that we have the faith that things will turn around. It seems like the chat is telling us that Jalen Hurts does sort of sound sniffly in his post-game press conference. It's interesting because the last time that Jalen Hurts was in that stadium, it was that playoff game.
That sucked.
And he came into the press conference room wearing a boot after having given no indication at all season long, in the lead up that he was dealing with anything. And it was like it came across as a bit of an excuse, which I don't think is how it was intended, but it was certainly how it was read. And now for him to come into the same place and it's like the win is a win.
I got the black lung, Pop.
We'll see what I'm curious to see what Zach says.
Yeah, and Zach should be joining us here momentarily. It appears. That is. It was weird that you didn't hear anything about it until halftime, and then Schefter was the one delivering the news. I feel where you're coming from.
Mickey Durkin, good point here. Can we get a Britton Covey shout out? A little juice for Britton Covey.
We forgot to mention
him.
him. He looked good tonight. I would say Britton Covey's best game as an Eagle.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, because he hadn't done anything before tonight.
Shout out to Merrill Reese, who is a huge Britton Covey fan.
Is he?
Yeah. Oh, loves him.
What exactly?
He's just always loved him. It's always been his guy since last summer. He usually picks a guy. It does often happen to be a slot receiver, so he's a big Greg Ward guy too.
Okay.
But he's always been in on Britton Covey, and I will give Merrill credit. He was early in on Jalen Hurts, earlier than most people.
So I screwed up massively in my Jalen Hurts evaluation, like a lot of people did.
Yeah,
I feel like
he's a bit of a unicorn. There's no...
Yeah, so I was one of the only people that defended the draft pick at the time.
Okay.
Because you had just given Wentz that monster money and you needed a cheap alternative.
And then you jumped off?
And then after the Las Vegas game, his second year, I said, this guy doesn't have what it takes. He's not seeing the field well. And he wasn't.
No, that's true.
And then he completely took my face and just shoved it right in there and made me look like a real idiot last year. So
to be fair, I'm sure that
everybody, for most people, kind of got.
I do like to imagine though that if he would just pick a random person and it would just happen to be you, and, he's got you in his locker.
Yeah. That'd be fun. I invited him to throw tomatoes at my face at City Hall if he wanted. I was going to get in the shackles and he could throw a bunch of rotten fruit at me and make me pay that way.
And he said, lose my number.
I had the inverse of most people where I supported and then bailed, where most people didn't support and then maybe either bailed or supported. And, it's been an emotional
you were there
roller
at some
coaster.
point.
Yeah. Well, eventually I'll get one of these right.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll continue to wait for Zach. So in the meantime, let's talk about FOCO. Because FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. The best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. Just look right over here. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY for 10% off. Eagles' run defense all year long has been fantastic.
Really has.
Rashad White in this game, 14 carries, for 38 yards.
Wow.
2.7 a pop. It was pretty similar last week for Alexander Madison, and it was similar for Raymondre Stevenson in week 1. So a Commanders team that wants to come in and be able to run the ball.
Brian Robinson's having
sledding.
a good start to the year, but I don't like his odds next week. I mean, what you're seeing from Carter and Davis it's special. Usually teams get like one of those guys. It's rare that a team has 3 of those guys because Fletcher Cox is having a really good start to the year too.
He is.
So the 3 of those guys look like absolute monsters out there.
All right. Well, Jalen Hurts has a lot to answer for, but as far as we're concerned, not as much to answer for as Zach Berman. And so we bring in Zach Berman from Raymond James Stadium now. And Zach, the question to you. The postgame show. Zach
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes. I imagine what you're about to say is really funny.
Yes, my question is, last week you told us that the show was more important than the Jalen Hurts press conference. I'm curious why this week you chose opposite.
I needed to hear from Jalen. I thought it was important tonight that I heard from Jalen. I checked with Andrew, the outstanding producer, to see how much time you guys still had left, to see if I still had time to go to Jalen. If there's only 15 minutes left, then I wouldn't have done it. But when I saw that there was like 30 minutes left, I could still get to Jalen, and it was important that I was there. I hope I don't catch these flu-like symptoms that he had, but Jalen had flu-like symptoms, and I wanted to hear from the starting quarterback.
We have not heard, so please tell us what you heard from Jalen.
First off, I was running up as fast as I could in the seat. That's why I'm sweating like this right now. What did I hear from Jalen? Jalen said, well, first, he was dealing, like he was visibly sick. You could tell with the way he was speaking that he was sick, that he had these flu-like symptoms. He didn't say whether it affected him. He simply said that they won. He said that his touchdown pass to Eligibility Zacchaeus was a huge play in the game, right? He stood in there, took the hit. He said they knew they needed it there in that moment. And it kind of continued that big drive. He really credited the defense with the way the defense played. He said that the interceptions, there was a miscommunication on one. He actually didn't use that. The person who asked the question used that terminology, and he said you summed it up well. And then he said a lot of keep the main thing, and the main thing's winning, and they won. So that was the big takeaway from Jalen Hurts, and that's why I'm about 15 minutes later coming in front of you than I would have been if I did not go to Jalen Hurts' press conference.
So Zach, I'm a big line setting guy. If I set the cliche line at 6.5 in Jalen's press conference here, would an over have cashed, or was that going under?
The over probably hit on the first answer, to be honest with you. Yeah. I thought you were going to say 60.5, and then I'd say, okay.
That's bad bookmaking by me.
Wait, so
six you
Jalen
can hit
Hurts
right away.
credited himself with making a big play in the game on the Eligibility Zacchaeus touchdown?
Well, I framed it to him like what stood out to you in that play. He said, yeah, it was a big play. They needed something there, you know. I don't have it verbatim in front of me what he said, but that was the gist of it, was that they needed a play in that moment. It was a big play in the game, and he stood in there in the pocket, made the throw. That was a game-changing play right there.
Now, is it your understanding, having been in the room, that there is something like magical about the essence of the post-game press conference room in Raymond James Stadium, wherein it makes Jalen Hurts tell or show how not 100% he is physically?
Well, yeah, he did. He did acknowledge that last game there kind of stuck with him, and he has not forgotten it. And of course, what Bo's alluding to is he walked in with a walking boot after that postseason loss in January 2022. And I don't know if this is making amends for it, but they were better tonight than they were that night, certainly. Still have ways to go offensively, but he did acknowledge that game stuck with him.
What about what else did you see and hear locker room wise, Zach?
Yeah,
Where were you?
So I was doing my best Bo Wulf impersonation. I was working that room, man. I really wanted to talk to defensive players. Spent a lot of time talking to Jalen Carter, who we spoke on. We wrote about it today on all PHLY, and then we spoke about it in the show on Friday about him returning to his hometown or near his hometown. And that was significant for him tonight. It made it much sweeter. He had 30 or 40 people in the crowd. His family had a tailgate before the game. And actually, right before the fumble that he forced, Jordan Davis showed him in the crowd where his family was sitting, like right before that. And then all of a sudden, boom, he makes a play he said he had seen growing up. Players punch the ball out, and that's exactly what he did there. So he was ecstatic about that play. Overall, speaking to the defensive players, they just really credited this defensive line, in particular the interior of the defensive line. Speaking to Jordan Davis, he pointed out like how much more comfortable he is now because he gets to play with his guys, because he plays with Jalen Carter and he plays with Nolan Smith. And I think he's a confirmed listener, because at one point he like turned to Jalen Carter and said, I love you, or I love playing with you, something of that nature. But he was very adamant about like how much he enjoys playing with Jalen Carter, and they made such a difference.
Yeah, Zach, I don't know if there's a player in the NFL that holds on to that ball when Jalen Carter comes in with a full punch the way he did. What was the latest on the injury updates from the locker room, Zach? Was Landon Dickerson, I guess he's the biggest one, was he getting treatment? Is there any word on what his is? And then there was Sidney Brown. There was Evans. A couple guys got nicked up or banged up in this game. Can you give us the latest on the injury reports?
Yeah, did not see Justin Evans in the locker room. He left the game early with a neck injury. Landon Dickerson seemed fine in the locker room. He was kind of waiting for the Jason Kelce scrum to dissipate. And Jason Kelce, when he's in a road city, he's like a dignitary, right? Like everyone come and speak to him and asking him about the Kelce documentary, and so Landon was kind of waiting for that to die down. But Landon seemed fine. Sidney Brown, I didn't have a chance to catch up with Sidney Brown. I was over with the D lineman at that point, but Sidney Brown was speaking with reporters. Seemed okay there, so we'll find out more. It is a short week. Justin Evans is probably the one that jumps out as the most serious at this point.
Now, who else did you talk to? Were you in on the Kelce scrum?
I was in on the Kelce scrum. There was probably a little too many documentary questions that I did not need to hear that. But
Any
you
Taylor
got
Swift
the money.
Questions?
Probably before I got there, not when I was there.
Okay.
I'm sure that is a big. There was DeAndre Swift questions. Actually, he got a lot of DeAndre Swift questions. But no, I think you broke some news on Saturday when you were at Sirianni's press conference, when Sirianni said that his son said that was his favorite movie or his favorite show, because Kelce got asked about that. So credit to Bo Wulf there. But Kelce was really saying like how all their running, or he didn't say all their running backs. He said Kenny Gainwell is playing really well too, and Kenny's going to bust things loose. But credited Swift, the offensive line was such a difference up front there, and that was a big talking point.
Yeah, it seems to me, Zach, as though 200+ yard games in a row here for DeAndre Swift. Hasn't been done with the Eagles since 2014. He only had 4 100-yard games in his time in Detroit in 3 years there, in 40 games. It sure seems to me like the Eagles have a running back one. Nick Sirianni can, we talked about in the pregame, Kenny Gainwell looked fine. I'm not taking anything away from him. But DeAndre Swift was averaging almost 9 yards a carry there for a large chunk of the game. I don't know what the hesitation would be at this point in just naming DeAndre Swift your top running back.
I've been saying this since July.
Yeah, lift up the arm, take your whiff. Go ahead.
Honestly, I've been running back and forth. I don't want to lift up the arm right now. I'm a little worried about lifting up the arm right now. But no, this was obvious in training camp. He's got the most juice. As long as he stays healthy, he gives you a dimension that the other running backs don't. So I'm surprised to see obviously back-to-back weeks of 100-yard rushing, but I'm not surprised by the way he's playing. This is what I expected when they traded for him in April, and this is what I saw in training camp. This is what I saw from James Bradbury a year ago, and what I saw from Javon Hargrave 2 years ago.
Please.
Some guys you can see during training camp that they're about to come on. They're emerging they're just playing differently. And he played differently this summer.
Playing differently? You never saw him play before.
I've never seen DeAndre Swift play before. I've seen DeAndre Swift play since he was 16 years old. Bro.
And not in person. Like James Bradbury is the same thing. Those guys were new to the team.
Yeah, I'm saying you could just, if you're an astute football observer, you can observe this type of stuff.
Zach, some people in the comment section tonight want to know if that's Banana Foster's grease on your camera or what's going on there.
No, I think it's just the lighting from behind. Right. Yeah.
Somebody offered you a microfiber. They said they could send you one if you wanted.
I did indulge in the Banana Foster, and it was delicious, right? I mean, a little too sweet. I've been trying to cut back on the sweets now that I'm on screen 5 days a week, year round. But when in Rome, and I really did it for the show. To be honest with you, like I can't talk about it and then not do it. I didn't go to Burns while I was down here, so at the very least I need to follow through with the Banana Foster at halftime. Could have used a little more bananas, honestly. It was a little light. The banana. A
little too much Foster?
Yeah, a little too much Foster. A little too much Foster. It's kind of like the mid-2000 Panthers, right? And I could have gone with Jonathan Stewart a little bit more.
Nice, very nice. Now, if Emily is watching or listening, maybe pause it or put it on mute for a second. How many did you have, Zach?
Oh, just one. And if Emily's watching when she watches this tomorrow morning, yeah, just one. And once I land back on that Philadelphia soil, I'll cut out the desserts until next weekend.
On a more serious note, Zach, you're having watched it live. Your read on the way that Jalen Hurts played. I know that a win is a win as far as he's concerned, but
the main thing is the main thing.
The main thing. The lamp is never full. A bird on the hand is worth two in the bush. Depends on whether you push the tush. But how did you think he played?
Average. I thought that the drive with the touchdown pass to OZ was the best drive he's had this season. I think he was 7 for 8 on that drive for 80 yards. And that touchdown pass was terrific. He took a few big hits there. I thought he was a little bit erratic with his throws. There were some that he missed. And then the fake quarterback sneak at the goal line there when the feet got tangled, not an ideal play. You don't want to see 2 turnovers. He has 3 interceptions now this season. He had his 3rd interception last year on November 14th, right? So that just shows you there in terms of taking care of the ball. But I was really impressed with that touchdown drive. That's when I think back to the way Jalen played tonight. That's what's going to jump out to me was that drive where he stood in the pocket, read the defense, made a few really good throws, and the throw to Zakay, that touchdown pass was the best play he's had all season.
Absolutely. Zach, much of my Twitter timeline tonight was outraged at the red zone offense.
I think they were 1 of 5. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Any indication, I guess this is something you can dig into more this week when you're in the NovaCare. How much to your eye up in the press box maybe goes to the play calling and Brian Johnson's side of things? How much of that is maybe going to Jalen Hurts and possibly not making the right decisions, whatever it may be? What do you make of the red zone woes tonight?
Well, it's a great point, and that's a big takeaway here because you can't go 1 of 5 in the red zone. And 3rd down and red zone, those are differences in the game. And I think it's to use a Sirianni expression, both the play calling and the way Hurts played. And on the first red zone trip, when they handed the ball off to Gainwell. Didn't like that play call. That jumps out to me. There were a few plays.
That was a weird one.
Oh, yeah, there were a few plays overall down there where I thought they got a little too cute. They can't be 1 of 5. They need to be better there. They put themselves behind the sticks on their second red zone trip, and you can't do that. They had a penalty there, I believe it was. But overall, that's something I will explore this week. It's something that when I speak to Brian Johnson will certainly come up, and it's something that they need to rectify, because when they play better teams, right there, that's the difference between, that's a 4-point play essentially, right? So, I mean, I went to Syracuse. I didn't go to Catholic or Wake Forest, but 4 times 4 is 16, right? There's 16 plays there. 16 points there that they could have added to the board. So they need to finish in the red zone.
Yeah. Also curious, did you have the same reaction Bo and I did to the fake tush push? Kind of a strange place to bust that out. Up 19.
Yeah, I thought like personnel related. I could see why they were doing it. They had a different personnel grouping in there. I don't know if it was their same. I hate using the term tush push. I call it the rugby scrum. Tush push seems a little bit,
Don't be afraid of the tush, Zach.
I'm
The tush
staying
needs a
on.
little push.
Incorporate the tush. It's fine.
Look, I don't want anything viral regarding that, so I'm avoiding anything here that can be cut up into a clip and put out there, like the Freddie Mercury thing. So
now there's
speaking of
tush.
tushes,
Yeah.
So I thought so. There was discrepancy between myself and the reporter sitting next to me as far as whether that play could have worked. I thought if the feet didn't get tangled, he could have beat Tristan McCollum. I'm sorry, not Tristan. A little slip there. Zion McCollum around the edge. The reporter sitting next to me thought that Joe Tryon would have closed in on him. I mean, they had like Gainwell blocking Tryon. I actually thought the angle there, Hurts could have gotten it, but I thought that's probably a little too cute for their own good. I understand the play. Sometimes, like Sirianni said, you need to have some variations off of the quarterback sneak. But I didn't think in that situation they needed to do it.
All right, Zach. Well, you and I have a show in about 12 hours back here on the PHLY Eagles podcast. You've got some travel ahead of you. Anything else that you feel like is worth mentioning from being on the scene down there?
I mean, I say this like partly in jest, but this is something to monitor. Jason Kelsey said everyone's sick right now, basically, right? I'm afraid that all the reporters are it's a cramped locker room. Everyone's going to come back sick. I mean, Jalen was dealing with the flu-like symptoms. There's something going around. So it's certainly something to be mindful of in a short week, that this is something that some of the guys could be dealing with. And elsewhere, Reed Blankenship, a lot of praise for Reed Blankenship. Darius Slay said that's the same play he had against the Packers last year. Like the way he broke on the ball, the way he read it. A lot of praise in that locker room for Blankenship. I mentioned Carter. I mentioned Davis. There just a lot of credit went to that defensive front. Nicholas Morrow, I spoke to him, about the safety, and he said it was all the front, right? Like the front just occupied everything, and he kind of went in untouched. Darius Slay said he deserves a little more credit for the safety because he was on the field as well.
Great celebration by Slay on the safety. I got to say.
That's what he said, and he actually performed it in the locker room too for all to see. So those are a few things that jumped out. I will have a story up on the defense on all PHLY that hopefully I finish by 2 or 3 because I got to leave for the airport at 4:30. Got an early flight. And I'll be in that seat where Jamie's sitting right now at 11:30, delirious, loopy, and Bo's going to be playing like mental gymnastics on me because I'll be on an hour and a half of sleep.
Well, I look forward to that very much. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Zach. Try to get a little bit of sleep, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
See you, Zach.
What a performance from Zach Berman, the man who only he knew.
I think the
You're
Eagles,
on the tail end of the sickness. This is
I am, yeah. Little kids, as we all know, are vectors of disease.
No doubt.
And, when the school year starts up, these kids get together and
You got no shot.
yeah, everybody's toast. And Jason Kelsey's got young girls and, like a lot of the guys have young kids. Kids get sick when they go back to school. This is just science.
No chance.
So hopefully they get it out of their system now in the easy part of the schedule. And then when it comes to be Murderers Row time, they're over their sickness and healthy and fully.
Hopefully they're all watching the Travis Kelce commercial. They're all getting their.
If I see one more
shots.
Yeah, he was getting roasted for that. And he also had a Bud Light commercial. People were none too pleased with Travis online this weekend. But yeah, if I see one more thing about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, I might just throw my phone out the window.
I mean, I kind of want to test this out.
Well, we are on the 7th floor, so it's probably going to be toast. But yeah, I'm good on those stories for a long time.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY
3-0
Eagles postgame show. Eagles 3-0, 25-11 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a game that probably was not even quite that close. And despite not having played like anything close to like a B-plus game.
With 500 yards of offense and a couple turnovers.
They're 3-0.
And, yeah. And the only team in the NFC East to win this weekend. I think that's worth pointing out.
I think that's probably right. Yeah.
It's not like a team was a 12.5-point road favorite and lost or something.
To a team trying to tank.
Yeah.
I am curious whether Zach, Gannon fan that he is taking the bus or if he's driving back to Philadelphia.
I still don't understand what the hell Gannon was talking about.
Neither do I.
Does anybody?
I don't think it's
Were you supposed to take the bus or were you supposed to drive?
No one will ever know.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, nobody will ever know.
Okay.
But DeAndre Swift certainly, moving fast in whatever vehicle of transportation he has.
He's good.
Another big game. So for Jamie and Andrew and Zach down in Tampa, and for all the tushes that we're pushing, we thank you for watching. We will talk to you tomorrow. Zach and I back here at 11:30 on the PHLY Eagles podcast. That'll do it for the post-game show. Thanks to everybody for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.